Welcome back to my Colorado mountain garden and homestead. And it's time to put your garden geek hat on, and we're going to talk a little bit about biochar, why you use it, how you use it, and how not to use it. Um, you don't have to use biochar. It's basically like a soil conditioner. And what biochar is it's a stable carbon-based component, and it's created by cooking down hardwood with very low oxygen going on. So it makes like a lump of wood that's black all the way through. Um, Sometimes I keep saying charcoal, but it's not charcoal. It's different than cooking down your wood and having wood ash. It does not break down very quickly. In some cases, depending on how big the piece is, it could take 50 years. That's why, sometimes you see burned areas, or I see when we go to burn areas, there's still a lot of trees that are burned and on the ground. They haven't decayed yet because basically it's created its own biochar, even though pine trees and stuff like that aren't hardwood. But what you buy is generally a hardwood product that's broken down. Now, biochar is good for a lot of things. It helps improve water and nutrient retention because it absorbs into the biochar, and it's a great habitat for beneficial microbes. And we all know those microbes are the basically the best thing in the world for garden soil, lawns, um, big fields, anything like that, is keeping that water around for as long as it can. So let's say you were gone one day longer on your trip and you didn't get your garden watered. If you have biochar in there, that's going to help hold that moisture in. Although, it can still dry out just as well as the rest. My gardens, not my gardens, my garden beds in my greenhouses and my hoop house, whenever I set those up, however many years that's been, because it's different because I didn't have all three at the same time. They were created over time. I put biochar in those. I have not put them in since, and that is why I'm going to add some this year. I meant to add it in the fall and I didn't get around to it. And then the ground was starting to be too frozen and things like that. So anything that isn't planted out right now. So my garlic beds, I will wait till fall and I'll save some of this to add to it. When you look to buy biochar, you'll see two prices. Some that are really stupid expensive and some that are cheaper. I think when I bought this bag, it was about $21, and I quickly just looked on Amazon, and it's running about 24, 25 bucks now. This is not inoculated. And the stuff that's really expensive has been inoculated. When you're inoculating biochar, basically what you're doing is you're putting nutrients into it. So you're letting nutrients absorb into it. And if you don't, then, if I just put this out in my garden beds, it would start robbing nutrients from my current garden soil. Could I still grow in there? Yeah. But until it really absorbs the nutrients, it could be harmful to my plants. And since I'm just going to be starting to plant here in the next few months out in those beds, it could hinder the smaller plants because they won't have the nutrients they need. It's not hard to inoculate biochar. It's not worth buying the inoculated biochar because you can do it yourself. You can even make biochar yourself, but you do have to cook down hardwood with very low oxygen, and usually that's going to create a big lump. Think of a big, like, baseball size piece of wood, and then you want to grind that down. And it is kind of funny to watch some of the videos online because you'll see people who actually make their own biochar, and that's usually people that have bigger than just a backyard garden, and they're grinding it up. Some of them have cool little machines that do it. Some people just use a big, I don't know, it's usually something on a drill that grinds it up. They're all black, their face is black. If you decide to do that, please wear a mask and eye protection because it makes a lot of dust. Just like when I pour part of this into a 5-gallon bucket, I'm going to use about half. It's going to be outside because it's going to have dust on it. Any way you look at it, it's going to have dust on it. And I don't want a bunch of black dust in my house or up in my face or anything like that. So, what else? Let's see. It helps a lot with clay soils. Let's say you made a garden bed, and I always tell everybody, spend the most money on your soil. Spend as much as you can on your soil because your soil is what you need to make your garden grow. Well, let's say you put a lot of topsoil in or something like that, and it's just hard, clumpy. It's never what you thought it could be. You could benefit by adding biochar to it because it's going to lighten it up. So will compost. So, it's not something you're going to add every year because, again, it breaks down so slowly that it's there. I don't have any in my potato beds, so part of this is going to be going into my potato beds this year. The idea behind it is to mix it into the top 6 to 12 inches, depending on how deep your beds are, and let it do its thing. Once it's there, it's there. I use things around here to inoculate my biochar. And it's stuff that I already have around here that I'm going to be using in my garden anyways. There's people that say, oh, you have to put molasses in. No, you don't. Basically, all you're doing is adding nutrients. So for me, what I have here is I have some bone meal and some crab meal. So to half this bag in a 5-gallon bucket, I will probably add between a half a cup and a cup of crab meal and bone meal. I don't want anything super high in nitrogen, but I want nitrogen to be in there. I'm also going to use compost, probably per that bucket, 2 to 3 quarts, and I just eyeball it. Again, there's no real recipe. And I use the Coast of Maine Cotty Blend compost here because it takes a long time for compost to break down here in the mountains. And I'll probably use between 2 and 3 cups of worm castings. That's all you need. And some water. Stick it in a bucket. Some people put a bubbler in there. I'm not going to put a bubbler in there. I'm just going to mix it around. If it's not going to be cold enough to where the water in that bucket's going to freeze, it's going to just sit on my deck. At night, if it's going to freeze, because it's not supposed to be super warm up here for the next few days, I'll just pull it inside my door and then put it back out in the morning. I'll open it up from time to time, but mostly I'm just going to be kind of shaking it, allowing it to mix around. But I'll open it up to get some fresh air in there. And that I'm going to let go for about 2 weeks. Now I got potatoes coming in probably here towards the end of the month, 1st of April. So I want to get this going. So it'll probably be between tomorrow and the weekend, get it going so it has a good 2 weeks. Then when I take it out, and again, I'm only going to do half the bag, and this is a 24 quart bag. First, I'll probably be putting it in those potato beds, which I have horse troughs. I have 2 regular sized troughs and 1 larger trough. So I have another 5-gallon bucket that has a bunch of holes in the bottom. So basically all I'm going to be doing is pouring that in there. I will let the water in the bucket that comes out when I pour it in, I'm going to let it drain into those beds. There's no problem with that. You can drain it in your yard, on your grass. You can drain it in any of your beds. And then I'm just going to use a scoop and get that mixed in and to the soil so that I'm ready before I'm planting my potatoes, not the day of. I want to get it done just a little bit beforehand, just so that it's done and has time to kind of sit in there, and the rest of the microbes that are growing in my regular garden bed soil are done. You're going to see a little bit different things going on in my hoop house. I'm going down from 4 beds to 3 beds, and we're just raising them so it's a little bit easier on my back because I'm getting old. So we're going to go to 3 beds that are about, I think, 2 feet, they may even be 2.5 feet tall. And so I'm going to mix some more in there. And then you can put Bio Char in your pots. You can put it in your houseplants. Like if you're repotting your houseplant, you can put some Bio Char in there. And again, all it's going to do is help hang on to those nutrients, help them not leach out, help with retaining the moisture. If you have any questions, please ask. I know this is like a lot to take in, and whether you really need to do it or not, it is your choice. If you have a bed that's not doing well, it could just even be a flower bed. Maybe you have an area it just has yucky soil like me, because I have a lot of decomposed granite. I could put biochar in there along with some more compost and better soil, but I just do that a little over time. A lot of my pepper potting mix and compost from each year, once I get those out, whatever's still there, because it's usually root bound and a lot of it is used up, that gets sprinkled around my pond, which is where my wildflowers and things are. I have some bigger containers that are about the size of, let's say, a whiskey barrel. And I don't change that soil out every year. So I'll probably mix a little bit of the biochar in because it's never had it, which will help, because I don't always remember to water everything every day. And a lot of those bigger containers, I try to get them watered really well before we go on a trip or something, but they're not on a dripper, so they could dry out. So I try to put things in there that don't mind being a little dry. But just ask. I'm an open book. I can only tell you what I know and how it's helped me. There are lots of videos out there. I encourage everybody to watch them and take everything with a grain of salt. Nothing is gospel in gardening. I hope you're having a wonderful day and happy gardening.